Rachel Reeves has increased taxes by £26 billion. Under Labour, taxes will be at their highest levels in history. By freezing income tax bands, millions of workers will be forced to hand over even more of their wages. And the Labour Chancellor is not only screwing taxpayers, she's also borrowing even more money, leaving more debt to future generations. And she did all of this, despite saying that she would do none of it. Does John Swinney intend to keep the SNP manifesto promise not to raise tax on Scottish workers?
First Minister.
Obviously the Government is giving consideration to the implications of the United Kingdom budget for the Scottish budget, but the Finance Secretary confirmed this morning that the Scottish Government will not increase income tax rates or introduce any new bans.
Russell Findlay.
John Swinney stood on a manifesto promise to freeze income tax rates and bans.
Let's hear Mr Findlay.
He stood on a manifesto promise not to raise income tax or bans. And the same John Swinney then stood right there and delivered a budget that raised income tax.
How can we trust you?
And then 1 year later,
let's hear Mr Findlay.
1 year later, the SNP again raised income tax. And on November the 6th, when John Swinney was challenged about this broken promise, he had the audacity to claim that this was, quote, not out of kilter with the SNP manifesto. And looking very much like Joe Biden, John Swinney actually seemed to be completely unaware of what he had done. And to make matters worse, Presiding Officer, on November 13th, he then misled Parliament by falsely claiming to have maintained his manifesto commitment. So when John Swinney says or suggests that he won't increase income tax, how can anyone trust a word that he says?
First Minister.
What a wandering lot of drivel that question was.
Thank you.
Mr Findlay makes a habit of coming to this chamber and not reading out the complete paragraphs from party manifestos that set out our position. We set out our manifesto position in 2021, but we said that we had to be mindful of the economic context. Yeah. And the economic context was fundamentally changed by two things. Yeah. One, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, which led to a spike in inflation and massive increase in public sector costs. And secondly, the absolute rank and total stupidity of the Liz Truss budget that Russell Findlay supported. That's what changed the landscape.
Russell Findlay.
What a cheek. The master of wandering drivel speaks. This is the guy that broke income tax, raised income tax, broke his manifesto promise twice. You always have to read the small print with the SNP. Yes. Scotland's workers, families and businesses deserve to know if more of their hard-earned money is going to be swiped by the SNP. But John Swinney cannot be trusted about any tax rises he's possibly planning. And one group who are increasingly concerned is the Scottish Association of Landlords. They say that Rachel Reeves' new property income tax could be the final straw, and that this could harm tenants by jeopardising the supply of rental properties. Now, Rachel Reeves has handed the SNP the power to introduce and to even increase this tax in Scotland. And given the damage that's already been done by the SNP's rent controls, does John Swinney accept that this new tax could further damage the rental market for tenants?
First Minister.
The Scottish Government has put forward legislation which has been approved by Parliament that introduces rent controls but also enables Scotland to be an attractive market for housing investment, and that is demonstrated by the dialogue the Government is having with the investment sector, and of course any decisions about these issues will be set out in the budget in January.
Russell Findlay.
So the SNP are forcing Scottish taxpayers to constantly pay more and more and more. And before the budget, they'd already set aside around £150 million to end the cap on universal credit for families with more than 2 children. But given Labour's decision to scrap the 2-child cap, the SNP can now spend that money on something else, not on more benefits. There is another way, a common-sense way that would reward hard work and help the economy. We believe that Scottish taxpayers deserve to keep more of their own hard-earned money. They deserve fairness and they deserve a break from higher bills. So will John Swinney instead use that £150 million to instead cut income tax?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, I've made it clear that the mission and the purpose of my government is to eradicate child poverty. Now, I welcome the fact that the United Kingdom Government has taken the decision from the 1st of April to abolish the two-child cap, which was put in place by the previous Conservative government. It is an atrocious intervention in the benefit system, and I'm glad that my government has shamed the Labour Party into acting on this particular issue.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have also set out on previous occasions that what the Scottish Government will do in the situation that we now face is that the money that we'd allocated to lift the two-child limit, which was an initiative taken by the SNP Government in the face of votes against such a proposal by Labour MPs in Westminster, that we would allocate that money to reduce child poverty even further than the reducing levels of child poverty in Scotland under this government. So when Mr Findlay attacks me for asking people on higher earnings to pay more in tax, I'm prepared to do that so that I can work to eradicate child poverty, which is the best thing for the future of our country.